Ah yes, the Basement Panther, a story that's now pretty much been told by everyone on the interwebs, and almost everybody gets wrong on every single detail. So what happened to the tank today? It was sold and is pretty much somewhere in America. Where? Now that's what we are going to find out. Oh yeah, and I thought this would have been a simple little update video. But when you really start diving into this story, it will get crazier on every single turn. Ah yes, I already covered this story pretty much when it hit the news back in 2015 or so, and made several update videos on the subject, pretty much telling the complete history. Today the story has been sensationalized by the media and of course the usual suspects, when in reality if you Google search for only 25 minutes, you will get the full and genuine story. That being said, let's get on with this one. So on July of 2015 the news sites were full of this tank that was found in this guy's basement in Heikendorf, Germany. It took the internet by storm and the first video I did went pretty much viral. And I pretty much fell for the first news articles coming out on this subject. The comments and my views were pretty much the same. The German government went into this guy's house and unlawfully took this guy's collection. In reality this wasn't just an innocent old collector that got his collection taken from him. It was an operation started by Dutch art detective Arthur Brandt in cooperation with the Dutch and German police forces. Now I'm not going to go fully into this art story, but you can look it up for yourself if you are really interested. So the initial operation got traction after Brandt was offered images of certain art pieces in the illegal stolen art circuit, which would lead him and the secret services to former Nazis, neo-Nazis, Nazi art like the Joseph Torek horses, and money. Lots and lots of money. After the German police found almost 1,000 pieces of stolen art on a property in München, Detective Brandt would be contacted by a black market art dealer named Stephen M., which would lead him to a man named Wolf and Klaus-Dieter Flick, the guy that owned the Panther. And to make a story short, the horses were found and Wolf was arrested. This would eventually spiral into the basement tank debacle, when after they raided Flick's house and other properties they would have found stolen art. Apparently live ammunition, weapons, and according to eyewitness accounts his basement would have looked like something from a Bond villain. And apparently this guy was also as subtle in hiding that he was a Nazi as the Africans in Lethal Weapon.
Big smile, big smile, big smile, big smile.
Few days later the tank was removed and the pictures were taken. Of course a German World War II tank found in some guy's house would be big news. And when this actually hit the news, these sites were really specific in which base of the public they wanted to appeal to. They never really told the complete story, they either focused on the tank or the stolen art. After this the speculation started. Where did this vehicle come from? Had this guy a fully operational Panther and other weapons that could still fully function? But of course some people found out fast that this Panther was one of the vehicles that was built by the Germans after the war on the supervision of the British Army. It would be shipped to Britain, it would eventually end up on a target range, disappear and would be found in 1977 on a scrapyard in Surrey, England. It was shipped to Germany, it would be sold to the Flick collection and restored to running condition. Of course a lot of nonsense about the tank would rise up as well. Like it wasn't in running condition when you can see clearly in pictures and video screenshots it was. To counter this, the story arose that the tank was used in snow plowing in the 1970s, but that's also not true. Flick himself accounted that he had several tanks in his collection, with which he helped clear the streets of Kitzenberg. This snowplowing tank would have been a post-war one. This entire snowplow story doesn't even make sense if you look closer at it. The dates of these snowstorms were in December of 1978 and 79. It would have meant that he would have to finish his tank within a year. Yeah, this entire story falls apart when you look closer at it. And so, several years had passed and nothing was heard of the tank again. It seemed to have been taken to a German military base in Meppen for storage, and it later came out that American collectors were interested in buying the thing. And what happened to Flick? Prosecution began and he was charged with violating of the War Weapons Control Act and firearms law, which is a German control act that would regulate transport and sales of weapons. Of course, the defense would focus on all the World War II weapons, and it would state that they were properly registered and deactivated, which in reality they were. In 2021, the case came to a close and Flick was fined €250,000 and the vehicles were ordered to be sold or donated. So what about the arts cases? Now, it seems that all information is being kept from the public for now. Information that has been released makes this story even more nutty, because those Torek horses seem to have spent 2 years in Flick's garden, where they were also widely visible to the public and the open road. And yes, to make it even more nutty and crazy, it also turned out that Flick was related to a weapons collector and is allegedly complicit in supplying weapons to a former dentist from Westensee who eventually murdered 3 people. This would spark stories to come out of the woodwork, like that Flick had connections with the ultra-right-wing grouping of the Reichsbürger movement and would have had neo-Nazis with swastika tattoos on their necks buying and picking up loads of torpedoes from him. Whatever is true, this guy wasn't just a World War II collector with a small and little private museum in his basement. So, what really did happen to this tank? I did some looking around and eventually just came across Walada's video on the subject, and he probably did the best video about this. He came to the conclusion that the Panther was definitely in America and probably was bought by the Flying Heritage Museum. But they told him that they did not have the tank. He found some pictures on Facebook and he eventually came to the conclusion that it was presumably bought by a non-profit led by Stuart Walton, and that he had a private collection of World War II planes stored inside the hangars at the Yellow Jet Aviation Company. To me, I'm not really convinced that's the case, and the hangars we can see in the pictures aren't the one from Yellow Jet Aviation. So I set out to take up my Google Maps skills again, and of course my brilliant Google Maps skills found the real location in 5 minutes. Yeah, okay, not really. Okay, it was some random guy in the comment section of Facebook that said these were the hangars at Arlington Airport in Washington. So I went looking around and found the precise location the pictures were taken at. And every single thing pans out. The blue lines on the roof and the steel beams inside these hangars were the same. I did try to contact several of the companies if they seen someone in the area with a tank in their hangar. Only one person replied back to me saying that he has no idea of any persons having or owning a tank. The companies and owners of these buildings do seem to have an interest in classic planes and vehicles. So the tank is pretty much with a private collector in one of these hangars. So I thought that was the end of it. I completed the video already until I stumbled on a post about the Me-262 having been restored in one of these hangars. The same Me-262 from the Flying Heritage Museum. You can watch several videos on this plane on YouTube. And they all were filmed in the same location the Panther was unloaded from. So what do you think? I'm pretty sure the tank is in the restoration hangar of the Flying Heritage Museum. I'm pretty sure they are keeping it on the lowdown until restorations are done. And if not, it is really in some guy's private collector hangar, pretty much next to the same hangar the Me-262 was restored in. I did try to contact the museum, but they never really replied to any of my emails. Whatever is the case, it will probably turn up next to the hatcher of the museum. But I hope you enjoyed this video and see you in the next one.